Now we have someone who is, as of today, leading an organization to deliver beyond influencer loyalty and focusing upon influencer equity, which becomes the bedrock of the brand influencer relationship. Let's welcome Mr. Navarun Sen, Chief Operating Officer, Plywood and Panel, Century Ply India Limited, to deliver the address on the topic Beyond Loyalty Towards Influencer Equity. A professional with 34 years of industry experience, Mr. Sen has experience in multiple functional areas like sales, marketing, supply chain, overseeing manufacturing, customer service, telecom network operations in companies like United Spirits Limited, VST Industries, Pepsi, Mahindra Holidays, Telenor, and since 2013 has been with Century Plyboards India Limited. Mr. Sen also happens to be the co-chair of the Marketing and Brand Committee of the Bengal Chamber. Welcome, sir.
Thank you once again, and my thanks goes out to Mr. Arnab Basu, our president, and Mr. Anup Hoon, who's our chairman of the Branding and Marketing Committee, for giving me this opportunity to be here. And next one. And of course, very interesting talk from Mr. Gaurav Duneja. Very interesting in terms of the insights he carried for us and presented to us. Next to it, our presentation. So, the interesting part is that, after all this glitz and glamour that he presented to us, really exciting, adrenaline pumping kind of stuff, I'm going to come back to the basics and maybe talk about something at the bottom of the funnel. And I'm going to talk about the influence of the tradesmen in influencing customers. So let's get on with it. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to talk about, as I said, about the tradesmen. What I'd like to impact and talk about is that, our loyalty programs have to move towards not just, loyalty, but actually building the equity with this set of tradespeople or the kind of end influencers. So, we have often heard of these kind of things, blessed are the hands of those who bring creation to life. And honestly, God is the biggest creator. But having said that, he's a fantastic tradesman, in my opinion. But, it's the tradesmen that I'm talking about are these skilled professionals who come from the trade-related industries. People who actually work with their hands to create, services or products and solutions. And basically, I'm talking about typically these skilled professionals who, through their innate understanding and knowledge of the trade that they ply, they actually influence the customer's decisions. And, it's people like tradespeople are basically workers from the construction industry, plumbers, electricians, electricians, HVAC, and, various kinds of these kind of things. And, these are just a sampler. Essentially, they are influencers in situations where the customer's understanding of the category is either little less or probably, or most often actually we've seen, that the involvement with the category is very less. For example, if you're doing the interiors of a house and you're building some furniture, it's not every day that you interact with carpenters or think about creating your furniture. And therefore, for the moment where you are in that zone of making a decision or creating something for yourself, that's the time when you actually look out for information. And that's where these tradesmen come in, and they are most important. So even when we look at tradesmen and influencers from a marketer's point of view, we could actually look at them in two buckets. One is, tradesmen who influence other tradesmen. And these are for, companies who are, who have products and, offerings for the tradesmen, which is something like, say, machine tools and things like that, where you can get a set of influencers who actually use your product and then they actually talk about your products with your peer group, with their peer group, and take your product forward amongst their entire peer group. For example, carpenters can talk about, sewing machines, cutters, things like that, with the rest of the community. So that's one set of, influencers, and for marketers who are actually creating products for them can actually use them. The other part, the other big chunk, is about the influencers who influence the customer's end decision, right? It's in a situation where the customer has to make a choice, and they lean very heavily on these influencers to help them take the right decision. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really because they have either very low involvement or absolutely no knowledge of that category for themselves. So, for these guys, we are talking about how can we build, from the loyalty to a equity where they become our promoters. We get high NPS scores. And importantly, what happens is that almost every, marketing company worth their salt today have some kind of a influencer engagement program, some kind of a gratification or loyalty program. So here the attempt would be that, given this clutter where everybody has something to offer, how can you put forward a better proposition where you can engage with them to an extent, engage with these tradesmen to an extent that they actually are your promoters, they are your silent salesmen in the market. So anyway, I think before we even start our influencer engagement program for a marketer, it's very important to understand what are our objectives. And I'm just putting forward a sampler of some of the benefits that a marketer can gain. And obviously at the very beginning is I want to engage with my influencer community or these tradesmen so that I can increase my revenue, which is but natural and obviously has to be the primemost. But beyond this, there are many other benefits when we engage with loyalty programs. Essentially, it's like against a one-time customer versus a lifetime value of a customer. If your influencer is engaged with you over a period of time, they will deliver far more value. Customer acquisition in any business is far more expensive than retention of a customer. These are nuances. So this is of course extracting a high lifetime value. Obviously, I talked about amplified brand advocacy. They become a silent salesman. Deeper market penetration. You can reach out to segments and areas where possibly it's not that easy to get to. For example, we are talking about bottom of the funnel, influencing. While we can create advertising and get our, databases ready of people who are about to engage in a activity, for example, the interior of your house, or maybe getting the plumbing repaired, or anything of that sort. But to catch the customer at the point of conversion or the point of decision making, when the intention to purchase is very high, these guys can actually reach out to them where a lot of personal selling effort is also required. So these are there. And of course, the other benefits are in terms of feedback and insights. Feedback not only in terms of your product performance, but in terms of your service, your availability, and even in terms of the latest consumer and customer trends and behavior. So this becomes a very quick fix. See, it's not always that we get on and commission a market research, but I have to quickly find out what's happening in a particular category or a new product that I've launched. All I need to do is to get to my 100 influencers who are already engaged with me and take a quick feedback. So these are very important, and they also help us in our market operations in terms of availability and visibility and those kind of things. Improved, as I mentioned, improved product development. And it is a competitive edge that you can create through your loyalty program. And of course, new product adoption. There are plenty of cases where companies come up with upgraded products or higher value-based products that are there. And if you have a loyal set of influencers, it's fairly your task becomes fairly easier to actually, get them to use a higher value product. So essentially, it's a strategic tool to build relationships, amplify the brand, and generate consistent growth. So these are the kind of benefits. So we must be very clear what we want to achieve. It cannot be everything, anything and everything. So basis what is the company's objective, basis that we can start designing the right loyalty program. On the other hand, it's not enough what we want. We need to basically understand what does the tradesman want, what are their needs. Reward and gratification is of course there, which is but natural, but there is a host of other needs that they have, and these are, it's a no-brainer when we start designing these kind of loyalty programs. Every marketer thinks, no, we must go beyond transaction. It has to be an emotional connect, and the emotional connect is in various forms. Whether it be convenience and support or increased business or professional development, we need to understand this. It cannot be a one solution fits all. And therefore, when you design your programs, and I will take you through a couple of examples and a couple of case studies, where it was not about just creating an engagement, but it was about creating the right engagement, which actually got the influencers engaged with us. Okay, but before I move on to that, there are some other issues that we must look at and some other important, inputs that we should look at when we plan these kind of programs. One is loyalty versus instant gratification. The objective is to engage them over a period of time. Another very important one is how do you engage with the big as well as the small customers. And typically when we run these kind of trade programs, we tend to focus on the big guys and have the gratification program around that, give them volume, schemes, discounts, gratification, trips, whatever it is, recognition. But how do you get the smaller guys involved? And this becomes very important. And just to throw a little light, for example, if you have a gratification program, say around, some machine parts for the auto industry. Now, you can actually accumulate points. The typical way all of them work is you accumulate points, you create a corpus, and you can actually redeem a gift against that. Now, suppose the aspiration is to, for that, mechanic, is to own a bike and get a bike. Now, the big guy can maybe, acquire the points and, get it done in 6 months. The small guy may require 3 years, but aspirationally, everybody can therefore actually participate in this program. So this big versus small is very important, and you need to engage them over a period of time. And of course, the last thing I said, gratification versus recognition, and we'll talk about it. Okay. So let me actually share a couple of case studies. This is about a company called Fleet Guard. They are the leaders in what we call the air filters for diesel engine. It's a auto OEM part, and this is what they do. Fleet Guard sells to both the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers like Tata's and Ashok Leyland and things like that, as well as they service on their own the aftermarket product, as well as to the OEMs. For example, the Tatas and the Ashok Leylands have their own branded OEM product, the same air filter. So they are selling to OEMs for the original production, they are selling to the OEMs for their aftermarket, and they are selling by themselves in the aftermarket with their own brand, which is Fleet Guard. So what they have done is that they have kind of enrolled more than 110,000 engine mechanics and fairly good activeness that they see. But what does Fleet Guard do differently? They have this entire program where people can actually just scan the carton and get their points. But what they've done differently is that they have made it very easy for the mechanics. Mechanics are not expected to actually upload the points. They have an entire group of 350 mechanic sales representatives, MSRs, who actually visit them on a week, 10-day basis and do the scan and uploading. And therefore, the effort of the mechanic is reduced. Secondly, they are able to provide a human touch, which seems to be very important. And of course, they get the real-time feedback, and there's all that is there. Apart from that, one of the programs that they run for these mechanics is a tetanus injection drive on a continuous basis through the year. And these people who work with their hands and tools actually, injure themselves. And this tetanus injection drive is something that they actually take it to the influencers, to the mechanics, to their workshops, and they do the injection. And not only people who are enrolled, but people who are the larger community who's there in that workshop. And this seems to have kind of given them a lot of traction, and they get the certificates of the injection, they get the, so it's a protection to them. So what has happened, actually, if you see, is that they enjoy pricing power because of their connect. They get a 3% premium over the OEM brands, despite the OEM themselves being the manufacturer of the original product, and they get a 10 to 15% higher than competition, and they have 65% share of the after-sales market. Right? Now, the important and key takeaway is that human connect is important for these guys. I have seen on and on. You may have the best integrated network, you may have the best app, people can actually, it's very easy for them to bank their points and, collect their rewards. But I have seen people, these guys saying, I give business to another company because that company's salesman comes to me. I have to give him. Poor guy is working so hard. So this human connect at this time, these kind of programs becomes important. And we tend to gloss over it, or we tend to say that technology will take care. Technology does take care, but human touch does not go away. So this is one of the key takeouts of this program that I've noticed. Let me tell you about those who are aware. It's the mother lode or the champion. It's the Fevicol Champions Club. It's the most regarded influencer loyalty program one can ever think of, at least in the building materials industry. So what have they done? So they have enrolled more than 200,000 carpenters. But important thing is they have done it a little differently. They have organized their carpenters into these clubs, which are not just clubs of, say, 50, 150 people, but they are also clubs based on communities. The Suthar community is one club. The Kachi Muslims is one club. And they have built their clubs around communities. And the clubs operate like villages. They have their office bearers who are almost like sarpanches. And the sarpanch becomes a key influencer. So they have done this. And then they have a host of programs. For example, they do regular club meetings. Once a quarter, they do club meetings and things like that. And they have a lot of community programs. One of the most popular programs is something called a Shramdan, where all the members come together as a club, and the carpenters actually give 1 day free service to, for a cause where they are actually giving a dan or a Shramdan. For example, if furniture of a government school needs to be repaired, so all of them get together, the repair of the furniture of that place. And, similar such activities. And company, of course, supports with all the material and other stuff, but the influencers, the carpenters, actually give 1 day social service. Then, of course, they have Vriksharopan, which is tree planting. Then they have things like Amantran, where at a regional level, the best clubs, their club, presidents are called over, their office bearers are called over. They have quarterly family mela, where the families can come in. There's something to eat and drink. There's some entertainment. There are medical and health checkup camps. So all of that is there. And then, of course, Shiksha Sadan, which they have scholarships for the children and all that. So it's a community-based approach. And believe you me, this program ran for 10 years. before the first iota of gratification was ever imagined. No gratification for the first 10 years. It's only now with the competitive pressures coming on that they've done it. And the other important thing is, again, they have a dedicated business development team who handles these influencers, and they don't have sales responsibility. They have only the engagement responsibility. Now, it's a very interesting thing that Fevicol did, because if you really see, Fevicol truly is not a very high value product in the scheme of things that they do when they make a furniture or something of that sort. And honestly, giving out a gratification would be like 10 rupees, 20 rupees, which is hardly anything. It's less than 2% of the cost of the entire furniture. And you give out a gratification on that, it doesn't help. So here, what did Fevicol do? They got into the community aspect, the community building part of it, and which has become the biggest glue for them. So what happens? Obviously, we know Fevicol has a dominant market share. I don't know, we talk about 70%, 80%. It's a dominant share of the category. They have pricing power, and they are able to upsell the higher value products, from the basic water-based glues to, high-techs and, poly glues and things like that. And again, the key takeaways is community development, non-transactional engagement, and social recognition of these people, right? I will now get on to the other one, which is the Century Plies Pro Club, which is the program for the contractors. So we have more than 80,000 contractors who are already enrolled, and when we say contractors, these are people who typically are people who lead a gang of carpenters, and they are the guys who are actually negotiating, and they lead the team, and they have the ability to influence the decision. And we actually call them DMIs, decision-making influencers. Now we went back and, we said, okay, we need non-transactional engagement. Let's go, what can we do? We can give them insurance. We can give them health insurance. Post-COVID, we gave them cash. And then we realized there's something else. We need to really understand what do these guys want. And we actually went and did a deep, DI with 3,000 such influencers. And what came up, their basic need, because they have many other companies running their loyalty program, what they wanted was an aspiration of being able to present themselves professionally. See, these guys are basically very simple people, not so sophisticated, probably without much education. They wanted to present themselves in a professional manner. And I think that was the biggest kick in life, that can I be seen as a guy who is polished, who's like not a contractor, but maybe an interior designer. And of course, the other aspects was, can we help him win more projects? And the other important thing came back is, I want to be digitally savvy. Can I market myself on internet? They're also learning. They're watching a lot of reels. So their requirement was not an insurance or not my child's education. Their requirement was this. So we actually worked on this, and we came up with some specific interventions. So what we did was created a plethora of solutions in our app, the standard app that we have by which we run the program. And there were things like creating the web profile of these people. Can they create their profile? How can they create their profile? And I'll take you through that. Then quotation maker. They said, "Arey, hum to parchi mein likh ke dete. Can I make a quotation like a architect or interior designer?" Of course, there were training and certification requirements, which we brought it online. They wanted as simple a thing as, can I have a good visiting card? And of course, furniture cost calculator, so that they can actually pitch for more business. So these were some of the menus that we created. And this is how we did it. For example, when we set the web profile creator, actually a person can create his profile over 5 different sections. And we made it a menu-driven kind of a approach. So each of the section had pre-filled templates, 5 templates each. So a guy could actually pick up one template and put it, which is most relevant for his profile. And there were little things like, I have there's a blank 10 years of experience. I have a team of 30 people. Those are the kind of little, points of information that they can put. But essentially, it was a click and drag because these people are not terribly well educated, neither they are very tech savvy. Click and drag, and they create a profile which is over five paragraphs, which describes the work they did. They can attach photographs, and it becomes a profile which can actually be converted to a PDF, and they can send it out. Not only the work that they have done, the showcase of the work they have done, the photographs, we also have a system wherein that if they reach out to Century and they have done work with us, our executives actually go there, validate the site, and we give a watermark confirmation on that picture that it's a Century certified site, which gives more credibility that it is their site. So this is one of the things in terms of web profile. Then of course, it's like the quotation maker. It's a standardized format, and they just have to fill in a couple of things. And of course, the trick here was that when they make the quotation, as far as plywood is concerned, they cannot actually input any other brand of plywood but Century. But having said that, it still gives them an ability to create the quotation. And when they send out this quotation, actually the profile gets tagged to the quotation and goes out on its own. So that's how it works. Then of course, training and certification. There are some video-based training programs. They go through it, they answer the questions, whatever, etc. And they can have a level of certification which we actually, issue them in terms of a digital certificate, QR code, visiting cards, and of course the furniture cost calculator. They can quickly give an estimate to their customers even before they give the formal estimate. So what has happened is that what we are noticing, as and when people have started using these little applications, they are really starting to become extremely loyal and becoming our promoters. So anyway, today we have more than 10,000 of our DMIs who have actually created, and these are some of the results that are there. But it's a slow burn. It has taken a lot of time to communicate, and it will take some more time, and a lot of education goes in. But it is extremely engaging, as we have realized. So, to actually end this entire thing about these three examples and case studies that I told you, I think some of the important things, key takeaways, as I look at it, having run these programs, is firstly, we have to decide on objective, what we would like to do. It can't be everything. Most importantly, as I mentioned, like as I told you in the Century Ply case, research the needs and wants of the influencer. And I'll give you a simple example. As a part of engagement, natural thing was that, hey, why can't we give them a trip? We can engage, if I can call them over, some of the best guys on a certain volume of business, I can give them a trip somewhere and we can actually engage with them. You know what we realized? These guys, while they signed up, there was as high a 40% dropout. And when we, people didn't actually come for the trip. And then when we actually went back and questioned, we realized, hello, a trip is not part of their lifestyle. उनको घर जाना है तो गांव जाएंगे, शादी में जाएंगे. To go out for a trip is not part of the lifestyle. Rather, they felt that if I'm out for 4 days, मेरा धंधा का क्या होगा? So we must understand the needs. This is something we learned. So a trip doesn't work for this community. That's what we learned. So it's very important to research the needs of the influencer. Of course, the other things are profiling and onboarding. We must get the right guys in. We get a lot of fraud profiles in. We need technology support. It has to be seamless. It has to be easy. And it has to prevent fraud. There is a lot of ramping that can happen. We are today using definitely AI tools where we are actually finding out the fraud profiles, and actually it's helping us. We can, through some patterns of behavior, we can actually identify, who are the likely fraud profiles that are in our system. And lastly and most importantly is everything that we do, these set of people, these kind of trade influencers require face time. So we must invest in it. So those are the little two things that I wanted to say. And finally, whatever you're doing, it has to reach the end guys, the influencers. So we need to communicate, communicate, and communicate. So thank you guys.